Welcome everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Today, I was hoping to talk about the idea of should you play more games? And no, I'm not talking about raw playtime you need to play 32 hours a day. Unless... No, in all seriousness, what I really want to talk about is should you play more kinds of games rather than fixating on just one? Now you might be wondering, why does this matter? And for a lot of people, I suppose it doesn't. Sometimes you just want to get back home after a hard day of work and play some Call of Duty with your mates before the next shift. And that is perfectly fine. In fact, that's something I want to just get out of the way. This video is not about acting as if video game playing is some form of greater ascension, of greater society, and that if you only play a few games, you're a peasant. Not what I'm talking about at all. However, when I'm not ruling empires from my golden throne, I am in fact a game designer. A novice one, but a game designer nonetheless. And as such, these sorts of topics come across in my day-to-day life more than the average person perhaps. When discussing the idea of playing more games, it will probably make a lot of sense to first understand what the reason you play games is. For that will contextualize whether these are relevant or not to you. Do you play games for escapism, inspiration, relaxation, out of boredom? Maybe you're looking for a challenge, or perhaps a combination of such things. There are many reasons why people play games, and people's reasons will change over time as the situation they find themselves in changes as well. But I believe there is an innate value for those interested in trying to play a diverse collection of games. If you only stuck to one or a couple of the same games for a very long period of time, you start becoming a bit isolated from the wider games industry as a whole. And I don't mean like you're looking for a job or anything like that. What I mean is if the game or the series or the ones you follow start perhaps waning in their quality, or if not that, start using some predatory services and features that you might start becoming a bit numb to, then this could be detrimental to yourself down the line, whether it's financially or you form some strange abusive dependency with something that just isn't going to get better and it's not really looking out for you. These can all happen when all you know is that one thing or those couple things. When you play a variety of games, you're giving yourself comparison and contrast. You can look at what certain games do and see what the other games do and ask yourself, is this one doing things I like more, or why isn't the other one something similar to that? And of course, you'll play more than one or two if you're trying to branch out. This is just a basic example. Another thing it lets you do though is perhaps discover new games that you really enjoy that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. Call of Duty, as I mentioned before, is a go-to game for people that really only play a few. It's mainstream with a big marketing budget and a big name behind it. Most people know what Call of Duty is, and most people would have played it at least once, and that alone is enough to give it a draw to people who maybe don't care too much about games but just want to have fun and relax, whether it's alone or with friends. Now, the amount of games that are created compared to the amount that can become mainstream and pushed with big marketing campaigns is a tiny fraction. Many of those mainstream games can be really good. They're mainstream for a reason most of the time, but that doesn't mean that the lesser known games can't have a few gems in between. There are in fact a lot of games that will come out every year, and I'm not just talking about rushed, money grab games with reused assets. I mean genuine games made by a few people or made by a lot of people, but they just never unfortunately get the traction they need, and they come and go without much attention. But you never know if one of those games could be just the game you were looking for if you weren't looking. If you're a creative person or you're working within the arts industry or the games industry, another great reason to try playing multiple games is so that they may act as a source of inspiration for your own work. most people probably can't afford to travel the world routinely all the time, every place. But games can take you not just to all sorts of places in our actual world, but even further beyond that to the world of imagination. And that might in turn help invoke your own imagination. And even if you're not the most imaginative person out there, seeing the thought process, or at least the end result, of other people's creative works might help you reverse engineer in a sort of way your own system or way of doing things to help your process get a bit more substantial. Of course, that's not the only reason why an artist person would want to try out games. You might just want to see the beautiful or stylized worlds that these games can present. Stories is another thing. Whether you're just a consumer of them or you're trying to write your own, it's a really great thing to see how other people manage to not just tell a story, but tell it in a medium that's as interactive as a video game, which obviously is probably the most interactive medium there is when it comes to storytelling, besides maybe telling a story yourself off the top of your head. A common factor into what can make people decide to really only focus in on a few games, besides time limit or just generally not liking many, would be community, or sense of community at least, that sticking to a few things can provide, especially in the age of the internet, where there'll be all sorts of forum posts, fan-made content, theories, etc. related to that same thing, where some people might even make their living solely within the confines of a specific game and its surrounding community. And there's not really anything wrong with that, but it's also important to remember that you can get as involved as you like in something and still be able to enjoy other things too. It doesn't have to be your be-all, end-all, this is my identity, this is who I am, and nothing else matters. In fact, that can become a little bit toxic, especially if the community itself has a tendency to also become a bit toxic. I've talked a lot about Sonic on this channel, and many communities has sections of it that can be rather heavy, and Sonic is no different. But I've also seen a bunch of people who, instead of enjoying themselves with games, in this instance Sonic, they get upset and sad because they're there interacting with the community, but they're interacting with the toxic aspects of the community, and they feel like they're just sunk in a trap that they can't get out because it's sort of the only place they go to relax, but that place of relaxation has been corrupted. And this is another reason why I think playing more than one type of game is healthy, because it will help you understand that you're not trapped in there. It will also help you understand when people are being toxic and not make you doubt yourself and wonder if you're the problem. You know, if you're in multiple spaces of different kinds of people with different interests, it will become more and more apparent to you when it's someone else and not yourself. Plus, it's just great to meet different kinds of people from different walks of life, and whilst one game alone does that, naturally different kinds of games will do it even more. Of course though, the only really thing that matters when it comes to playing games is if you're playing the games you want and having a good time. Unless you're into rage games, which is kind of fun in its own way, but you know what I mean. Should you play more games is really only a question you need to ask if you're starting to get bored with what you're already doing, or if, like I mentioned a second ago, perhaps things aren't going so well and it would be a good idea to try branching out. As I said earlier in the video, I personally believe it's just a good idea in general, no matter who you are, every so often to try something new or go back to something you haven't tried in a long time. But ultimately, fun is the name of the game, and that's what matters the most. I hope you enjoyed this topic, and I'm very interested to hear what you might have to say, whether it's about games you enjoy, or your thoughts on this actual topic itself of should you play more games. Of course, these sorts of videos are a little bit different to what I've been doing recently, but I wouldn't mind the idea of doing them more if you guys are down for it. Again, game design is sort of my thing, and I'm pretty eager to talk more about it, and talk about a variety of games in general. Anyway, That's the end of this video, so thank you for watching it right to this point, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.